devastating secret revealed. After 25 years of marriage, my wife made a confession that changed everything. 8 years ago, she did something unforgivable. I'm 50 years old, and I just found out that my 47-year-old wife was unfaithful 8 years ago. She confessed because the guilt was eating her up. What do I do now? This is going to be a long post because I want to lay out the full context to get honest opinions. I know most people use anonymous accounts for this kind of post, but I wanted to be real and authentic using my actual account. I don't want anyone thinking this is fake. If we know each other in real life or if you find me on other social media, please keep this conversation here or in private messages. I don't want anyone harassing anyone, and I have a 16-year-old daughter who has been spared from this drama so far. I got married right out of high school, and let's just say if my marriage were a college course, it'd be Screw UPS 101. It would be a masterclass in what not to do, featuring every red flag in the book. I was naive and barely starting out in life, thinking I had hit the jackpot. I believed I had what my parents had, a model of marital bliss. I gave the benefit of the doubt far too often. Meanwhile, my then wife, fresh out of a lonely, overprotected upbringing, went wild, deciding to live life to the fullest, conveniently leaving me out of the picture. Before I knew it, I was Mr. Mom to our toddler while she was out making up for lost time with random guys. I finally caught her red-handed and filed for divorce, bracing for impact. Getting divorced in 1997, right in the heart of the Bible Belt, was not favorable to men. What followed was straight out of a horror movie. I paid $5,000 to my attorney only to watch her take everything, from my guitar to my video games. She even claimed keepsakes from a deceased relative, and the judge seemed happy to grant her every wish. I lost everything I owned, and my time with my son was reduced to one Wednesday afternoon and every other weekend. My faith in women was completely shattered. I went on a few dates here and there, but mostly kept things casual, dinners and low-key hangouts. I never let anyone get too close. Then, in early 1999, at a friend's birthday party, I met a woman whose marriage had fallen apart even worse than mine. She had lost a baby at 6 months of pregnancy, and her husband had the audacity to bring his girlfriend to the funeral. She was heartbroken, to say the least, learning about his affair and the end of her marriage on the day she buried their daughter. We sat on a couch that night, trading stories of romantic wreckage. She was intelligent, which to me is an instant connection. It's rare to find someone who makes me laugh instead of the other way around. When I went home that night, I couldn't get her out of my mind and kicked myself for not asking for her number. The next day, my phone rang. It was her. She'd gotten my number from someone we both knew and asked, "Would you like to go grab something to eat?" I said, "Right now sounds perfect." So I drove to her grandma's house, and off we went on what I still consider the perfect date. I understand we were both lonely and heartbroken, but trust me, this wasn't just a spark, it was a wildfire. And believe it or not, we've been inseparable ever since. We haven't spent a single night apart. That was 25 years ago, and we got married a year after meeting. Go ahead and facepalm. I know how it sounds, but it's hard to put into words the connection we had. I'm still shaking my head in disbelief. Our families loved seeing us together. I was sure I had found my soulmate, if you believe in that, and I was sure she felt the same. We loved each other's company, and our lives fit together perfectly. But as life tends to do, it had a plot twist in store. In 2006, I started feeling sick. Eating brought on intense pain, which I first thought was a virus. But after a week with no improvement, it became clear something else was going on. I was admitted to the local hospital and went through a battery of tests. When I was admitted, I weighed 223 pounds, 101 kilograms, at 6 feet 2 inches, 1.88 meters. Within a year, I dropped to 145 pounds, 66 kilograms, and my condition left doctors baffled. My health was rapidly deteriorating. Through it all, she never left my side, holding my hand, begging me not to leave her. At the end of 2007, a final effort took me to the Cleveland Clinic, where a young doctor quickly rushed me into surgery. When I woke up 3 hours later, she was there, holding my hand with a smile. The surgery was a success. I was cured. I'll spare you the details, but it involved my colon. Finally, I could eat and move without agony. My life returned to normal, and we were happy again. The following year, she received a lucrative job offer in her field, earning more than I did. That didn't bother me, she worked hard and deserved it. After losing her baby, my wife wasn't able to conceive. We had been trying since 2000, and eventually, we accepted that it might never happen. Then, in 2010, we got a call from the state of Minnesota about a 2-year-old girl who had been removed from her mother due to drug-related charges. They asked if we would consider adopting her because the biological mother had requested that she be placed with relatives before her parental rights were terminated. My wife and I drove 30 hours to meet her, and after a few months, we adopted her and welcomed her into our home. Our daughter faced social challenges and had suffered abuse, which led us to decide that one of us needed to stay home with her. As I mentioned, my wife was making significantly more money than I was, so it made sense for me to take on the role. I dedicated every day to supporting our daughter's mental health. While I played a part in her recovery, I can't take all the credit. Her preschool, kindergarten teachers, and therapist were vital in helping her learn how to socialize and trust again. Eventually, I started working as a freelance journalist so I could be home when our little girl got out of school. Our evenings were dedicated to family time, and we took small weekend trips together. In 2017, my wife came home from work one evening, visibly shaken by what she said was a workplace argument. Despite my attempts to comfort her, she remained inconsolable. She announced her intention to find a new job. She had never had problems like this before, so I was surprised. For days, she was a mess, withdrawn and distraught. When I pressed for details, she said, "It would only upset you. Let me deal with it." True to her word, she quit within a week, taking a 15% pay cut. I should have questioned it at the time, but she'd never given me any reason to worry. Once she started the new job, life returned to normal, and our family was happy again. In 2022, I published my first novel through an independent press, fulfilling a lifelong dream. I could feel the pride radiating from both my wife and daughter. I had reached this milestone before turning 50, and I couldn't wait to dive into the second book. And now, ladies and gentlemen, this is where my world falls apart. In 2023, while I was finishing my new novel, my 27-year-old son from my first marriage suddenly passed away from a heart attack. He had an undiagnosed condition that none of us were aware of. I want everyone to understand when people say, "I can't imagine losing my child," they truly can't. There is no pain like it. My wife and daughter, who also deeply felt the loss, did everything they could to support me. But there's no way to truly cope with that kind of tragedy. In the months following his death, I buried myself in work, pushing to finish my second book in his memory. The day I finished it in January, my father passed away after a long illness. He had been sick for a long time. You think you can prepare for something like that, but it's a lie you tell yourself. The loss hit hard, and my daughter was instrumental in getting me back on my feet. My second book launched in February, and I tried my best to smile at the release party. By early April, I was starting to feel better, outlining ideas for my third novel and doing the same everyday things with my wife and daughter. My wife and I have a Wednesday night tradition, where she picks a random recipe she finds online, and we cook it together. On April 3rd, while we were making slow cooker chicken tacos, I thanked her for everything. She asked why, and I told her how grateful I was for everything she had done to help me through the hardest times. I opened up emotionally, saying I wouldn't have made it without her. She started crying, then sobbing, and soon she was in full breakdown. I tried to comfort her with a hug, but she pushed me away. I apologized, not realizing my words had triggered such a reaction. Then, out of nowhere, she confessed to cheating. I laughed, thinking it was a weird joke. But she grabbed my shoulders and told me, in detail, how back in 2017, a 28-year-old man at her old job had started flirting with her and she flirted back. She believed it was harmless at first, but it escalated. My wife has always been afraid of aging. Her birthdays were something she dreaded every year. She admitted that the attention from a younger man was intoxicating. She said turning 40 sent her into a crisis and that she couldn't talk to me about it because she thought I dismissed the whole thing. He invited her to leave work early one day and come over to his place. She couldn't understand why she agreed to go, maybe it was the thrill. She said she didn't know, but she went, and ended up sleeping with him. Afterwards, she felt horrible, staring at her keychain on the way home, which had a picture of me holding our daughter. She drove home, and that's when she lied about having had a fight at work. She never wanted to go back there again. That's why she suddenly started working somewhere else. She said she had wanted to tell me, but she never found the courage. I sat in silence, eyes wide, mouth open. She apologized, saying she couldn't live with it anymore. I just shook my head, unable to say a single word. She offered to leave if that's what I wanted, or go to therapy, or even beg for forgiveness. Instead, I grabbed my AirPods and phone and walked out. I wandered from 6 p.m. until nearly 11 that night. When I got back, she was on the couch, asking if I was ready to talk. I shook my head again, went to my office, where there's a couch, and slept there. The next day, after our daughter left for school, she asked if I had anything to say. I said yes. I asked her why she chose to bring this up after the worst year of my life. Why couldn't she have just kept it to herself until I could handle something of this magnitude? She just looked away. I scoffed and told her to go to work and try not to sleep with anyone on her lunch break. That was April 4th, those were the last words I said to her until last night. She tried to talk to me several times, but I would just walk past her into my office, trying to focus on my next sci-fi comedy novel. Writing something funny is difficult when the thought of your wife rolling around with another man keeps invading your mind. A week ago, my daughter asked me in the car if everything was okay, and I lied to her, which made me feel awful. Then, last night, my wife came to the office door and asked, "Are we getting a divorce?" I looked at her and replied, "Looks like it." She started crying and closed the door. I haven't spoken to a lawyer, and divorce hadn't even crossed my mind until she brought it up. That's why I wrote this essay. Where do I go from here? How do I begin to untangle this mess? I don't feel like going to therapy. I don't even want to leave the house. I'm broken right now. The weight of everything has been crushing. There's been so much to endure over the past year. What do you even say to someone who stood by you through it all, only to completely shatter your heart? Update. After spending Saturday morning reading and reflecting on the overwhelming number of comments, I've made my decision. Some people said my issue was beyond Reddit's pay grade, they were wrong. I deliberately avoided talking to friends or family, wanting an outside perspective, and I think it worked. I'm deeply grateful to everyone who messaged me privately and replied publicly. Your thoughts helped me reach my conclusion. On Saturday night, I approached my wife to apologize for the silent treatment. I told her I wasn't trying to punish her and admitted it was childish. I said that if I had opened my mouth earlier, I would have been cruel and ruined any chance of a civilized conversation. I promised we'd talk the next day. On Sunday night, I laid everything out. I didn't cry, and I didn't raise my voice. I asked for the man's name, and she gave it to me. I asked if he was married when she cheated on us, and she said yes. That hit hard, she knew he was committed to someone too. I asked if he was still married. She said she had no idea, hadn't seen him since she left that job. I told her I hoped he was, because I was going to make sure his wife knew. If my life had to fall apart, so would his. I thought that would upset her, but it didn't. She just nodded. I shared my doubts that this was a one-time thing, reflecting what many commenters also expressed. She insisted it was a single mistake and the only reason she quit the job. I explained that after 8 years of living a lie, it's only natural that I question everything she says. So I made it clear, if there was anything else she hadn't told me, now was the time to be as honest and open as possible. Any further revelations would be the breaking point for me, with no excuse strong enough to fix it. She swore it was a one-time thing and that she had wanted to confess ever since. I asked if he had reached out to her after she left, and she said no. I wasn't surprised, figured he got what he wanted and moved on to the next workplace affair. That was the only low blow I threw. I asked her to leave the house for a few weeks, not saying it was over, just that I needed distance. I suggested she stay with her sister, her mom, or even rent a place anywhere but here. I also told her I intended to talk to our daughter. For the record, she's 16, some people thought she was much younger. To my surprise, my wife revealed she had already told her about a week ago, which I hadn't known at all. My daughter had asked her about the tension and my anger, and my wife confessed. Before bed, I asked my daughter myself, and she confirmed it. I asked why she hadn't come to me, and she said she didn't want to make me feel worse. I decided to keep her home from school tomorrow so we could have an open conversation about everything. It's important for me to understand her feelings and to make it clear that hating her mother isn't the goal. Her mom has always been loving and supportive. It's natural for her to feel angry, and that's okay, but picking sides helps no one. No one wins in this situation. It's a hard truth to face, everyone loses. Tomorrow, I plan to reach out to 3 local therapists and contact the grief counselor I saw after my son passed. I'm not interested in couples therapy, I believe individual therapy is what I need, and since it's highly recommended, I'll give it a try. My daughter's school year is wrapping up soon, and I'm looking forward to spending quality time with her. I plan to keep everything private from friends and family, this is our business. Someone advised me to control the narrative, but the only person who needs the full truth right now is my daughter. I need time to decide whether this relationship is salvageable. I need time for reflection and to truly assess the situation. When my wife asked if we were heading toward legal separation, I told her that wasn't the case. I said that when I look at her, I feel anger, and that's not healthy. To my surprise, my wife agreed with everything. She doesn't want the relationship to end, and I reminded her that her actions with another man took that choice away from me. She pointed to my wedding ring as a sign that she still mattered to me, and I confirmed that she does. I suggested we end the conversation there. As I walked past her, I touched her shoulder, she nodded in agreement. Later, she called her sister and made arrangements to stay with her starting the next night after work. TLDR, I want to thank everyone for their support and advice, except the guy who just wanted to argue. I'm sorry for how long my original post was, I felt the full context was needed to help people understand why I was so conflicted. To those who messaged me privately and know who I am, your discretion is deeply appreciated. I'm looking forward to spending the next month with my daughter and starting therapy. Messages are welcome, and I'll do my best to reply to each one. I'll post another update in the future once I've decided on our next steps or if it's time to move on. This is not a decision I'm taking lightly. Comments. Foreign_flight 4566. Jesus, man. I'm really sorry for your losses. The timing of your wife's confession is unbelievable. Realistically, this is beyond Reddit's scope. I recommend therapy, but honestly, it might even be beyond a therapist's help. I know you said you don't want therapy, but this seems like exactly the time when you need it. They can offer grief support, which you're going to need as you process the emotions of losing loved ones and a very painful betrayal. I hope you find happiness, no matter what you decide. Up. I considered several different subs and have no idea why I chose this one. I should have clarified above that after my son passed, the local hospice here offers grief counseling, which I used extensively. I don't want couples therapy, that's what I should have said. My apologies. I posted this to try to get outside perspectives from others and maybe give myself a different angle to look at all this. Cake of value. Not couples therapy, individual therapy for you. You need support right now, after everything you've been through, and an impartial third party to walk with you through the pain, the end of your marriage, the next steps, and co-parenting. My non-professional perspective is that this is probably over. If she had confessed in 2017, you could have made a choice about forgiveness, couples therapy, etc. But she kept this secret for 7 years, and then dumped it on you at your lowest point to ease her own guilt. Especially knowing that you both had already been hurt this way before, it's incredibly striking that she still did this. Magnum_TV. Damn, man. This is, just damn. First off, I'm so sorry for your losses. My sincere condolences to you. You need grief counseling. That would help you gain some perspective. At the very least, you'll eventually be able to make decisions based on logic rather than just emotion. Second, your wife. She not only cheated on you, she lied to you for 8 years. 8 years. That's terrifying, because now you'll always wonder what else she might be hiding. Now, I'm an a-hole, I'd be out of that marriage tomorrow. but you've really built a life with her. If, and that's a big if she's remorseful, you should still divorce her. It would be less stress on your life than having to be her watchdog. Because the trust is gone. If she's remorseful, you can try to work it out. But she has to do the work. Not you, her. Because she's the one who messed up. Remember, regret and remorse are two totally different things. I recommend you still talk to a lawyer before making any final decision. The more informed you are, the better choice you'll make. I'm sorry you're going through this. Good luck, brother. Up. Thank you so much. That's another thing on my mind. What else has she been dishonest about? Bolt_McHardsteel. It's clear you've thought deeply about this and figured out a path forward that works for you. Good luck in therapy. Get yourself right mentally. There's no rush to make a final decision about your marriage. Take care of your daughter. She sounds like an amazing kid. Stay strong.
Reddit Relics comment. This story is a painful reminder of how poor decisions and long-kept secrets can destroy relationships that once seemed unbreakable. It's impossible not to empathize with this man, who had already been through so much, only to have his world turned upside down by someone he trusted. Whatever path he chooses going forward, what matters most is that he finds a way to rebuild his inner peace and protect the bond with his daughter. Sometimes, healing begins with the truth, even if it comes too late. What about you? What would you do in a situation like this? If you liked the video, smash that like button, subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss the next wild Reddit tale. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.